This article is from the Chicago Tribune, Thursday, December 27th, 1984. Animalize tour. In the tempo and art section of the Tribune, Kiss and Tales. Paint's off, but band's hot streak goes on. This is again by the late great Lynn Van Matre. In the year or so since members of Kiss made the decision to shed the comic book fantasy makeup that had been the rock band's trademark for nearly a decade, singer-guitarist Paul Stanley has noticed a certain change in the group's audience. Quote, "We're getting more women now," exults Stanley. Good-looking ones, too, who throw their underwear. By the end of the show, the stage usually looks like a lingerie department, what with all the bras and assorted goodies. Quote, "You can always tell who brought the bras along to toss and who took them off at the show," adds Stanley cheerfully. "The bras that got ripped off are sweaty and unhooked." Does he have any theories as to why the band's fire-breathing heavy metal music should arouse a woman's lingerie-flinging instincts? Well, first of all, continues Stanley, we're not strictly a heavy metal band. We're just a bunch of fools running around having a good time, and I guess coincidentally, we're not the worst-looking guys either, he laughs. We look kind of good, I guess. At least, I haven't heard too many complaints lately. Kiss, a 1970s phenomenon that some figured wouldn't make it to the 1980s, has been experiencing renewed success of late. Maybe it was the decision to forego the grease paint that helped to widen the band's once mostly male, mostly very young audience. Maybe it has to do with the recent resurgence in the popularity of hard rock heavy metal music in the U.S. At any rate, the band's latest album, Animalize, has already passed the million mark in sales, and its concerts are bigger than ever. Staging for the group's current show, which was to have played Chicago on New Year's Eve, but now probably won't make it to Chicago until the spring due to scheduling difficulties, for instance, is set up so that the band can run around into the lighting system 20 feet above the audience. It's everything that we've always wanted in a show, Stanley enthuses. I've got a trapeze to play with, and there's a big stage that juts out into the audience so that we can get as close to the people as possible. We don't want to set ourselves apart from the crowd. All we are is guys who jumped out of the audience and started playing. Stanley, whose musical influences include The Who, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, and the Rolling Stones, formed Kiss in New York in 1973 with bassist Gene Simmons, a former sixth-grade teacher, and two other musicians who have since left the band. Wow. The current lineup includes drummer Eric Carr and guitarist Bruce Kulick, who was touring with the band while regular guitarist Mark St. John is sidelined with an arthritis-like illness. Donning highly theatrical makeup, costumes, and stage identities, the quartet went on to become hugely successful, though critical acclaim eluded them. You don't say. A lot of critics said we wouldn't last 3 months, acknowledges Stanley. Today, those critics are probably working in automobile factories, and we're still around. The public knows what they like, and hey, we're coming out on top. Nevertheless, the band did make one concession attempt to achieve musical viability with 1981's The Elder, a concept album that proved to be Kiss's least successful effort commercially. People around us at the time were telling us, in essence, to go out and show everybody how brilliant we were, explained Stanley. But I don't think that you show anybody anything when you're trying to be brilliant. To me, being brilliant is doing an album like Animalize, which is just being yourself, Stanley continues. I don't want to be Mozart or the Moody Blues. To me, becoming better at what I do means playing tighter and heavier and singing better, rather than evolving into some other kind of band. Some people seem to think that because we've been doing this for 10 years, we should suddenly sound like Kraftwerk. I'm not interested in that. Techno rock and synthesizers are okay, but pushing buttons isn't my idea of making music. I think the closer music can be to your body and your instincts, the better. If you have to start using computers, it's a drag. And I think it's a drag in your everyday life when people think that being advanced means being machine-like, Stanley adds. This is timely. To me, being advanced means being primal. I would rather think of myself as closer to swinging in the trees than working at IBM. I'm just a monkey. That's all. A hot monkey. I love it. Sizzling Simeon Stanley believes that Kiss is still around after 11 years because, he says, we've always been unpretentious and honest, and what we do is based on something true. People wanting to get crazy. Nowadays, everybody talks about partying and how bad they get in the hotels, but that's nothing new. That's what our lives have been about all along, celebrating being alive. To me, life is like Disney World. I want to get on as many rides as I can. Off the road, Stanley lives in an apartment in New York. He's single, but unlike unconfirmed bachelor Simmons, he's not opposed to getting married. I'm just opposed to marrying the wrong person, he explains. If I got married, I would do it with the intention of staying married, which means I'd have to find somebody that I was real comfortable with. His lifestyle, he says, is relatively simple. I have everything that I need, but I don't really need that much, Stanley says. I like going to a restaurant or taking a trip sometimes, but I'm not interested in having butlers and all that nonsense. That has nothing to do with rock and roll, and I'm a rock and roller. The idea of living like Elvis Presley in Graceland with 20 people telling me how great I am while I eat pies is not conducive to making rock and roll. I want to be able to keep my feet in the street. Another great article, Lynn. Rock and roll, Kisstorians. Thanks for checking it out, Kisstorians. Rock and roll. Thanks for checking it out, Kisstorians.